Hello guys, this is us again, Taras Berezovets and Peter Zalmayev reporting from Ukraine. Today is 4th of March 2022 and this is a very hard day for Ukraine actually, considering and watching what's going on our soil, and mostly dangerous situation we now see in Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, where Russian occupiers, especially Chechen terrorists from Kadyrov so-called guards, took control over this nuclear power plant. They killed all civilian personnel on this location, and Russian tanks have been attacking this power plant from yesterday. There was a huge fire and there is a danger of blast. After that, this Chernobyl catastrophe of 1986 may look like just minor damage actually.
Yeah, indeed, Taras. According to nuclear scientists, the damage would have been 10 times what we saw in 1986 in Chernobyl. And mind you, the Russians are also occupying Chernobyl. Seems to be in line with Vladimir Putin's tactic of nuclear saber rattling and basically trying to blackmail the world into submission, to try to blackmail Ukraine to submission and to bring it to its knees, whether through a nuclear strike or by basically blackmailing us with the occupation of Zaporizhia power plant. Incredibly reckless tactic, if you ask me.
Absolutely. Also, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba called to the West not to turn Ukraine into Syria. We saw pictures of Ukrainian second largest city, Kharkiv, nearly destroyed. The downtown of Kharkiv was nearly destroyed by Russian rockets and airstrikes, and it looks really like Aleppo, another city which was destroyed during the civil war in this Arabic republic. Also, Russians taking control over our southern cities, and only two cities still remain on the south under Ukrainian control. One is on the west. This is Odessa, our biggest port on Black Sea, and now is Mariupol, the biggest port on Azov Sea. There is a fierce battles now in Mariupol, especially. No mobile connection with Mariupol for the last 4 days. They have no heat. They have no energy, no water, nothing like this, and people are spending all the times in bomb shelters, and a huge problem because Russians are not giving these so-called humanitarian corridors to escape for civilians from Kharkiv, from Kiev, from Mykolaiv, from Mariupol as well.
Russians are, as we summed it up for you, our first edition. Russians are getting extremely desperate. Vladimir Putin's blitzkrieg plan for Ukraine has failed miserably, and so with that has grown his desperation. He's used a bunch of different banned ordinances, such as multiple launch rocket systems. He's used the so-called thermobaric missiles, which is we call them here vacuum fire bombs, twice at least in the last 2 days against Kharkiv. This is really getting out of control, and the Europeans are reacting. Ukrainians have called on the Europeans to close NATO, for NATO to close the airspace over Ukraine. And just today we heard Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General, respond to the Ukrainian request by what we expected, by saying that this would mean an automatic nuclear war with Russia, or a confrontation with Russia, which would could easily lead to nuclear war. So that has been ruled out, and then you have to also consider what President Macron said after his conversation with Vladimir Putin. He said that it seems that the worst days are still to come. Once again, this was corroborated by the Secretary General of NATO. It's not looking very good, folks, on that front, but the Europeans are still resolved to help Ukraine militarily. Germany, the once pacifist Germany, has decided to grant Ukraine 2,700 Zemla rockets, which were ironically made in the Soviet Union, and that in the possession of the East Germany, the communist East Germany. 30, 40 years ago, and now West Germany, United Germany, is helping Ukrainians fight Russians off with these rockets. So Ukraine is not alone. It's going to be very tough, but the armaments are coming. Ukrainians need more Bayraktar drones, which have proved to very, very effective. Ukraine has currently 20 Bayraktar drones. It probably needs 100. Each one of them costs $4 million. Taras and I, we argue for that in our media, appearances. We appeal directly to the American public, Western publics, so that listeners, viewers, lobby their governments for more military assistance to Ukraine. Ukrainians have already proven that they can and will fight for their country. It's a true countrywide struggle. It's beyond and apart from politics. It's a do or die moment for Ukrainians, and every Ukrainian that we have met has shown willingness to stand up for their country.
Yeah, Ukraine desperately needs more armaments, especially anti-aircraft missiles, because Russians have they're superior in the air. And as you know, Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov dismissed all accusations that Russians were bombing civilian objects, which is absolutely true. And he had an argument with a British correspondent who said to him, why are you killing Ukrainian civilians? Why you killed a teenager girl in Kiev? And he said the West was responsible, of course, for this. But as we see now, Putin, as usual, relied on his so-called operative briefs of his special services, and as usual miscalculated. Instead of quick and easy victory, he and his hordes faced the effective tactics of urban guerrilla, which when strikes are carried out in a quick hit and run, hornet stings again and again. The Russian army's strike units cannot cope with such tactics, and the armed forces of Ukraine and the territorial defense battalions, so Russians are exhausted by them and become demoralized. A few more days of such a war and Russian units may start sabotaging orders and even deserting en masse, military experts say.
And now on the sanction side, the U.S. is squeezing, and the West is squeezing the news around the Russian economy's neck tighter and tighter. The U.S., by that I mean Joe Biden in his State of the Union address a couple of days ago announced the creation of the so-called Task Force Klepto Capture, which goes after billionaires and Russian oligarchs with ties to Vladimir Putin. And obviously you have to assume that you have $1 billion in Russia. That means you have ties to Vladimir Putin. Manhattan borough president, that's my hometown as well. I have a residence in Manhattan. He's announced that he would be freezing real estate assets upwards of $1.5 billion. It's not a done deal yet, but he's considering that all these Russian oligarchs have parked their assets in places like New York and London. And so they're running for the exits. Their yachts are being confiscated. Alisher Usmanov's huge yacht was confiscated. He's a confidant of Vladimir Putin, a close member of the circle. And so as a result, we hear some of them already squealing for mercy. Mr. Deripaska, Abramovich, Friedman, owner of Alfa Bank, have appealed in a sort of general way without criticizing Vladimir Putin, but they have appealed for the war to stop because they're the first ones who will be suffering and are suffering from these sanctions.
Thank you, folks, for watching this video, which two of us, Peter Zalmayev and Taras Berezovets, recorded here in Ukraine from the battlegrounds, and expect more videos from us. But now we experience some problems with internet, which explains why we were not possible to record the video at least yesterday. Please subscribe to our channel, and you can also support us on Patreon. Thank you so much, guys.
Glory to Ukraine.
Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. Bye-bye.